Hello, welcome to the first episode of I'm Not Sure They Were Lemons. This is like so exciting. So I spoke with Fiona. We spoke about grief and also struggling in school, but I just wanted to let you know that obviously with grief it is a very heavy topic, so if it's not something you feel okay listening to, then you can skip to different parts of the video at any point. I want you to keep yourself safe. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to introduce it because I didn't actually officially do that because it was the first one, so I was like so figuring out the technical stuff. Obviously from like a fellow neurodivergent standpoint, it is quite long, so feel free to like save it, come back to it at various points. I know that's exactly what I would be doing. But yeah, I'm really excited and I hope you enjoy. Hi!
Hi, how are you?
That's an open-ended question. That
is so true.
That is
There's too much to that question, actually.
I know. I saw this TikTok. I think it was like an actress, and she was literally talking about grief, and she was like, "Ask me how school pickup was. Like, let's start there. Ask me about the last hour." And I feel like maybe we'll have
honestly, literally, like ask me about like maybe the last like 20 minutes, and I can tell you that.
That might be pushing it.
How am I? How much time do you have?
I mean, which portion? Ask me again in an hour, and it could be totally different. So
literally, exactly.
I can't process it. I feel like when I went to my first concert and I was like processing the fact that Arctic monkeys were there in real life, and I still hadn't. Like the whole time, I was like, Tasha's like, that's really Alex Turner, and I was like, yeah, but like,
isn't that crazy? Yeah. Are you comparing me to seeing the Arctic monkeys?
You're famous to me. You are famous to me. You're so famous.
You're famous.
I've literally been thinking about this because I have so few American friends. and, and when I speak, I'm like, I try to sound more posh because it's like you sound so gorgeous. And then I'm just here like, yo.
Shut up. I would so much rather have your voice. Shit. What is? Can I curse on your podcast?
I feel like I was like, I'm going to keep it like pure. It's not going to happen. It's not.
I was going to say Yorkshire is my favorite. Like that region is my favorite accent. I promise.
I don't love it. I actually come home whenever I've like been seeing my dad. I come home with like a more Yorkshire accent. That's like my dad's side. My nan, she has such a strong like Yorkshire accent, and then my mum's a bit more toned down. But I come back and I'm like, oh my god, and she's like, let that go, Jess. Leave it at the door. I'm like, yeah. Okay. Oh, let's like okay there. I'm trying to like compose myself. I think this is the biggest thing podcast wise. I struggle so much to be serious. Like I'm the unserious person.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
And it's like, especially when I've like got going in like a light-hearted way, and then you have to like ground yourself, and it's like, oh well. Well, I want you to feel zen. Yeah. Well, that's maybe not as zen as possible. Let's keep it.
Well, I promise that I that will not be a problem here because I'll probably be like talking your ear off, like where you're like, okay, I think it's time for us to wrap it up. Do you have any like ideas of, because I watched your video obviously, and so I kind of got the vibe for what you want with this, and there were some things obviously that resonated with me like deeply, but there was also things that I feel like I could learn from you, because there are some things that I don't struggle with, at least not to the like, do you know what I'm saying? Like there's differences, but also like extreme similarities. you know, like grief and loss and, you know, mental health and like that kind of thing. And
I want it to be sort of like guided by you, because I'm
Mhm.
open. I can talk about anything.
Yeah.
And I think I don't want to push. I feel like it's more likely for the other person to
hmm
have their
hmm
limits.
hmm
And I feel like, obviously I know you in the sense that we're the same person,
Yeah.
but but also I think obviously I want to try and keep the structure the same.
hmm
So you take it where you want it to go,
hmm
and I'll just sort of play to that, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything, whether it is the things that we've kind of connected with in terms of
hmm
grief, or whether
hmm
it is, again, obviously we can relate in terms of mental health stuff, but
hmm
then like you said, there's things that you'd like to know more about or whatever, then
hmm
just anything.
Yeah.
I think it's just incredible how we've connected.
hmm
I think I only wanted to sort of convey love and empathy and just, I don't know, make you feel sort of supported. I never expected for that to start an influx of back and forth messages and have this
hmm
conversation, and then actually
Yeah.
become really close and then
Yeah.
connect. I never expected that. So
Yeah.
I think that is so valuable to me, like genuinely. And
Yeah.
I've
Oh.
spoken to her so much because she sort of said like, I think I've struggled with sort of the difference of with my nana and then
hmm
Marie and things like that. Like I've had to sort of find a way to manage it in different ways.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if you could sort of relate to this, but I feel like with her online presence,
hmm
the expression of it online for me
hmm
feels wrong, because it feels I remember saying to you, like, she was a friend and a daughter and a sister before she was online.
hmm
And I I feel like like I said, for me, it takes away that very human level,
hmm
a very genuine sort of connection. And I think obviously in terms of like my personal account, but I spend so much time on my recovery account.
Right.
That's where I express so much of it. But I
hmm
feel like she is known. She's known online. And so I keep her legacy personal. And it's like almost like the opposite with my nana, because I'm
hmm
like, more people need to know who she is, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Sweet.
But it's been amazing. It's been so lovely to actually have those conversations. So
Yeah.
raw
Absolutely.
and just,
Yeah.
I feel like we found so much common ground and
hmm
that we had no idea, I wouldn't have expected.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I was like thinking about it the other day, just how like, you know, the internet obviously has a lot of cons, but the pros of it, the ability to connect and the ability to find people that otherwise you never would have connected with, like unless like it was like one a bazillion like chance, you know what I mean? Like there's people that you connect with online, like through whether it's, you know, the recovery community or something else. It's incredible the way these connect, because it used to be like don't talk to strangers online, you know, and now it's like my best friends are the people that are online, I met online, you know, it's like the my most like cherished moments in life are because of people I met on the internet, specifically because of, you know, mental health, you know, which I think is really interesting and also really important because it
Mm-hmm.
just really shows just like a kind of unity and um, just creating safe spaces for people. You know, I think that's really, and that's what was so like when I really took the time to look at your account, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is so amazing. Like you really run an incredible account. Like I can't even imagine the work you put into it. Like it's beautiful. It's like, you know, I mean, you've got the aesthetic down, you've got, but most importantly, what you're saying is like so helpful, and you're just I don't even think you realize just the outlet and support and safety that your account gives people. It really, really does. And when I first, like I said, when I first really took the time to look through it, I was just like a gasp, because I was just like, wow, like the amount of time and energy that this must take. Like when I first started struggling, if I had had like something so informative and um welcoming, and what's the word there's a word I'm looking for, with the recovery community. There's pros and cons with it, but obviously I would say that an account like yours is a massive pro. I mean, it's beautiful, it's informative, it's like, just, I mean, you should be making like loads of money off of it because it's that well put together. It's welcoming. It's like you know what I mean? Like you just really know how to create a space, and you can just see how much you care. And I think that that's something that if I had had access to when I first started really struggling with mental health when I was like 15, that would have been, because there's so much information there. There's so much affirming content that it's really, really amazing to see, because now there are people like that are, starting to struggle with their mental health, and they can come across your account and see, what all the work that you've put in, and see that they're not alone. And I think that that is so important and so amazing. And, you've just done that out of, passion, but also the kindness of your heart. And I think that's wonderful. So your account is just a safe, beautiful place and it's more than just mental health, but it's just a really lovely thing. And I just want to make sure you know that and give yourself credit for it.
You. I think it never feels like work to me. It never feels.
Yeah.
I think there's so much passion, and
Mm-hmm.
it feels so personal and so important that it has never felt like something. And I think the work comes from the emotional
Mm-hmm.
side of it. I think um sometimes it'll hit me that what I am writing about is real, and
Yeah.
other people who are struggling with this, and it's a shift from being able to be objective and then remembering that, wait, no, there are other people feeling this, and
Mm-hmm.
that's difficult. And
Yeah.
I think the flip side of that though is that it's so beneficial for me, because it's like I'm affirming these narratives to myself as I'm writing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll read my own post back and be like, I actually really need to.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if at any point it starts to feel a
Mm-hmm.
bit much,
Mm-hmm.
and we can go
Yeah.
else.
And
Um,
same goes for you as well. Like I'm pretty, like I can pretty much do anything, but if I start going in any direction or anything, just
yeah, I will
put up
do.
a little finger or something to be like,
Oh no. I think the as you were speaking, I was seeing irony, because I was about turning 15 when I found Marie's videos, and I was like really, really struggling, but I had no idea what was going on. I just thought I really thought I was alone. And I think it feels like such a cliche thing to say, but it's you don't realize how isolated you feel until you hear somebody else say it, and it's like,
mm-hmm.
so it's
Mm-hmm.
not just me. Like it's like this epiphany.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I can remember like watching the videos over and over again, and then I was like, got this bravery, and I felt so sort of like, wait, I'm allowed to speak about this. I'm allowed to ask for help. Like,
Yeah.
this is like insane. And there was so much going on in my life. Like I felt so alone. I felt so silenced and like I can't speak up. And I just thought
Yeah.
it was one of those things where, to be fair, anybody on YouTube, like to me, they were a celebrity. So I was like, this is nothing, but I'm gonna let her know the kind
Yeah.
of videos that she's been making with
Yeah.
no thought that she would ever reply to me or whatever. And when she did, I was
Mhm.
like, Beyonce.
Yeah.
And it was the same with us,
Mhm.
with Marie, and we had like so many conversations that it was just on and on, and we'd just be rambling and rambling
Mhm.
and rambling. And then quite quickly we were like, okay, I feel like maybe we need to like implement boundaries for like the end of a conversation because we just end
Right.
up speaking for like days on end.
Mhm.
And I just think that that's sort of, there are now 15-year-olds who are seeing
Mhm.
my content, and she was the one who pushed for me to start this account. And I
Mhm.
think now it's more and more, it's like it's only right that this
Mhm.
is something I keep pushing for. And I also
Mhm.
think, I do think this is, it's a difficult thing to admit, but it's there, is the kind of pressure that grief creates. I think
Mhm.
like the constant, what would they have wanted, what would they have wanted, and it's like
Yeah.
that can become too much at some point,
Mhm.
because it's like realistically you have this window of tolerance and there are things that exist outside of that, and to have
Mhm.
the pressure of being like, but they would have wanted me to do this, they would have expected realistically, you know, they would not have had those kind of expectations, they wouldn't.
Right.
But I feel like it feels like your only like last connection, and so you
Mhm.
rely on it.
Mhm.
And I also think it's the whole living the most fulfilled life that you can, and the
Mhm.
irony is that you're grieving, and so that's really really
Mhm.
hard to do. um,
Yeah.
and it's like the constant sort of wanting to be present with people, wanting to spend more time with people, and yet you have even less energy than you
Mhm.
have, and it's like I don't,
Mhm.
how can I, these two things cannot coexist right now, like
Right.
it's not,
Right. Right.
it's it's a lot. But then I
That's
think
a lot.
as time's gone on and I've had more conversations, I think I've been able to be more patient with myself and be real in terms of
Mhm.
knowing what these people would really say, and not
Mhm. Yeah.
using it as fuel for my inner critic.
Mhm.
Because I find that, and it's like with my nan, for example, she was
Mhm.
impossible to disappoint. Like
Mhm.
there was just nothing you could say or do it. She would just always find a way to turn it into a lesson. She's like,
Yeah.
okay, so you've made this mistake, that's fine, but we'll figure this out. And it was always that kind of thing. And I was just sort of like, when I was beating myself up, I was like, I'm letting her down, I'm letting him down. And then I was like, but I'm not though.
Yeah.
I feel like the grief has such a, it's so, and it's such an overused word, especially in my vocabulary now, but it's so
Mhm.
bittersweet is the only
Mhm.
way I can just,
Yeah.
is that there's so much sort of love and comfort and motivation and inspiration that comes from it all, but there's also so much darkness and so much criticism, and it's like almost this
Mhm.
like it's you, it's your inner critic, and yet grief has a way to frame it as them.
Mhm.
It's you're letting them down. It's like it's a
Yeah.
whole new level,
Absolutely.
and it's difficult. But when it comes to my content, I just think I just try to be patient. I just try to be free,
Mhm.
take everything as it comes, and lose this pressure to do more
Mhm.
constantly. More, you need
Mhm.
to be doing more,
Mhm.
you need to be doing more. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
Why can't I
Yeah.
just be comfortable? Why can't I just slow down
Mhm.
and take in what's happening right now?
Right.
What am I waiting for?
Mhm.
Because realistically, this grief isn't going to evaporate
Right.
suddenly, and
Right.
life goes on. So what am I going to stop? Am I going to stop living and waiting for this moment that's potentially not going to come, or it's so far in the future, or it's not such a definitive moment. It's not going to
Hmm.
feel so sort of, I don't feel like that moment arrives. I don't feel like there's a moment where you feel ready
Right.
to live. And I think
Exactly.
it's a big thing. It's big,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's a lot of waiting and time just passes you by. I
Yeah.
think if grief teaches you anything, it's that we don't have that kind of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that living a fulfilled life means being patient and slowing
Hmm.
down and
Hmm.
feeling all of the things
Hmm.
and not just trying to look for the joyful moments and the serenity, but also recognizing that this is part of life as shit as
Yeah.
it is. Grief, death is the only
Hmm.
inevitable
Yeah.
thing.
Absolutely nothing you can do about it. And that's why it's so hard to accept, move forward. Like, just, I mean, it makes things feel impossible, but you sit there and you watch the world continue to turn, life continue all around you, and you feel like everything stopped. Like my world stopped, but everywhere else, it's like everything just kept going. And it's like, how is it possible for any kind of like anything? Like I could bear like, in the deepest, darkest moments of grief, it's like you can't do anything, or at least that's what it feels like. And it's like such a dark place. And, depending on the type of grief you're dealing with, comes guilt or uh, just pure anxiety, fear something else is going to happen, something else, like, you know what I mean? Like just like impending doom, like constant, like it's like grief completely, it changes your brain chemistry. Like, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I'm going to say that because I think it does. I mean, um, being in, um, I do this thing like 3 times a week, usually, like in a group setting, and it's all people, um, like it's a grief-based thing. And it's wild how much everybody relates to each other, no matter who they lost. It's like how our brains are affected by it. It's just been the most like eye-opening thing, because it's not like I thought I was alone in my grief, obviously. Like anytime I've lost a lot of pets in the last like 5 or so years. Like I've lost too many pets. Like it's ridiculous. And
You
that's,
know, I the amount of, and I was literally thinking, when is this gonna stop? When does she catch
yeah, I know, like, yeah, like losing two earlier this year. Um, it's nightmarish, for someone, that, I mean, everybody loves their animals, but
No,
yeah,
I
like
get
you
it.
get it. And um, I'd say since like it started in 2018, but it really started in like 2020, where like it just felt like and it wasn't just like grief in terms of dying. It was grief in losing people, or grieving a time in my life or a version of myself that I want so badly to go back to, but you can't. And honestly, like that's kind of what's been my biggest struggle, um, since 2021, probably, is just coming to terms with the amount of time that's passed and the amount of loss that's happened in that amount of time. But also, like, there was a while there that I was just obsessively like looking at videos of myself from that time that I so desperately wish I could go back to and be like, I wish I was her again. Like, I don't recognize her because it's not me. Like, I don't feel like that person, but I want to be that person. Like, that person is laughing and smiling,
Yeah.
and like, I just looks like a different person. And I still deal with it, but with, I mean, I don't think time heals all wounds, but it certainly does soften it
Mm-hmm.
over time. I mean, it takes a long time. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, time heals all wounds, like it'll pass, like just blah blah blah. Um, yeah, just I guess the complexity of grief is what I've um come to realize is so um what's the word? You're just enveloped in it. Like it's you can't escape it. You feel like, each turn is just another terrible direction to head in, like it's so hard. And grief has been a consistent part of my life for like, but obviously last year was like the worst thing ever, like to ever happen by a gazillion. You know what I mean? Like last year was so, I'm
There's also
still,
in there, I swear.
yeah,
There was
yeah,
too much in one go. And I think that's the complexity of it. It's so overwhelming.
hmm
And there really are no words. And I feel like
yeah,
I find myself saying that so much.
hmm
But I can't emphasize enough that I genuinely just, it's so hard for me to talk about because I feel like I don't have enough language. I don't feel like
literally,
all of the words in all of the
hmm
languages would still not be enough
yeah,
to explain it's so from one extreme to another and
hmm
all of the stuff in the middle. And I think,
hmm
I don't know, more than sure, probably kind of late, but I am so scared of time. Even sometimes I will literally catch my phone when it's gone from 32 to 33.
hmm
My heart will sink.
hmm
And it's like time is moving too quickly.
hmm
I think it's it feels impossibly hard to to not be so consumed by grief and anticipation when you are watching time move.
hmm yeah,
And I think like with what you said about the way the world the world it keeps turning. The sun keeps setting and rising.
hmm
People are walking around, and I think the first few times I went out in public were honestly insufferable. I was so angry. They
yeah,
were just like people having conversations about mundane things and
yeah,
just existing, just living and
yeah, yeah,
shopping. And I was like, why the fuck aren't you devastated? Why are you how is this happening? How are you getting
yeah,
on with your life right now? And why
hmm
am I here? Why
hmm
what's happening?
yeah,
I was like, it's always like the audacity,
hmm
even of myself, to
hmm
go in the shower.
yeah,
Well, how dare I go in the shower right now? Like,
hmm
you realize what we've lost here. How is we have to stand still.
hmm
And I think, ironically, one of the things my nan used to say to me is that the world hasn't ended until it's ended. Because if the world is still turning, then there's still hope.
hmm
And I think that sometimes you really, all you have is the trust in that.
yeah,
It's hard to believe it,
hmm
but I think to trust it, there's some element of comfort in that.
hmm hmm
In just, okay, well, maybe tomorrow,
yeah,
maybe the day after that, and you just never know. But
yeah,
it's nauseating, and I think um the periods of dissociation, not being able to connect with the loss, with the
Mhm.
like, it's almost like I literally it's I always thought before, because last year was my first encounter with grief, and
Mhm.
the universe really said, I'm going to give it you all, like, have it all. um and I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying?
Just our short-term memories.
No, seriously, what was I
No,
saying?
I was totally with you on what you're saying too. You were saying um like the world hasn't ended unless it's like ended, and then you said that last year grief was like the hardest
What the
and
fuck?
like first thing that you
Wait, can we rewind?
I that's what like literally like I was
I
so with
literally
you on
had a
what you were
point.
saying. Dissociation?
Dis- Ironic, I was going to say denial.
Yeah.
um is I always thought it was sort of kind of an active, not a choice, that's the wrong, but like a defense mechanism, something that
Mm-hmm.
um it's like a refusal to believe it. What I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize is that it would be my brain that is
Yeah.
refusing to process it, and
Mm-hmm.
is I it's the emotional aspect. I can't feel it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel like the worst person ever. And I'm like, why can I not feel this anymore? And like, I've lost,
Mm-hmm.
it's my only last connection. Then I'm grieving the grief.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, where did that go?
Yeah.
And then it's the wave, and it comes back,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a crash.
Yeah.
You can't predict it. You can't predict what the trigger's going to be. You can't. Sometimes there isn't a trigger. Sometimes you have the wake up with existential dread,
Yeah.
and it's just there again.
Yeah.
It's just like that. And
Yeah.
it it's I don't think I could ever say I preferred the initial,
Mm-hmm.
the shock. It was, I mean, I was so physically ill, and that's
Yeah.
when I kind of I did. I mean, I obviously know with anxiety the physical side of it, but the heartache, the like, I genuinely was so convinced like I was having a heart attack, like 90%
Mm-hmm.
of the time.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, it was a constant. It was something that I couldn't make sense of because it was ongoing, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't like this,
Yeah.
but it's constant. Whereas now, I just never know,
Right.
and it's even when I'm not in the depths of it, I feel guilty for not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It always feels like I can't win, and there's
Yeah.
always some element of grief, even if that's not
Yeah.
directly related. It's
Mm-hmm.
a domino effect, and that's just this
Yeah.
overwhelmed because
Yeah.
it's so complex. It's in.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like I resonate with what you just said so much because it was actually what I've been dealing with the last few months is this the way that I've like, you know, journaled about it or like described it because it's a complete juxtaposition in saying that I feel painfully numb, where
Mm,
I'm just like, because I'm feeling the pain, but I hadn't cried in months, even though like the tears were right there. It was like but there was like something like blocking them from being able to come out. And I felt so sad, like I could just break down crying, but it lasted months where it was like, why am I not crying? Why am I not crying right now? Where I would start to be like, is there something wrong with me? Like, what's going on?
yeah,
Yesterday morning, because I had, mental health stuff, I don't sleep well. I'm up through the night, just crawling out of my skin type stuff sometimes. And yesterday was one of those days. And I went on Instagram to look at reels because sometimes that can make me laugh. Sometimes like a funny animal video can take me out of my head for a second and make me giggle. Not that I look to Instagram or like social media, because I'm not a huge social media person in general, but like a funny reel, like, if I can laugh for a second, I'm gonna do it. But I was already struggling really badly, and I take a couple like swipes on the reel tab, and I hear these like guitar notes, and I'm like, what is that? And then like the melody starts, and like I hear the lyrics, and I realize that it's a song that was used in a really old YouTube video of Marie's. And I don't know how, like in the back of my brain, that, because that like old YouTube video, you know what I mean? And it was like in the back of my brain, somehow it like plucked that out. And it was just like a flood. Like I was sobbing because just of these few like guitar notes. And then when I heard the song start, and it just, that was a trigger for me. It just triggered. I mean, obviously music is like one of the biggest triggers, like, like music and smells and stuff like that. But there was just something about that. Like this old, like so many years ago, but like there was something about it that just really, really got to me. And I cried and cried and cried, and that opens like a whole other, you know, box of, emotions and et cetera, et cetera. But it's just, like you were saying, like feeling guilty for, not doing this or not feeling this way, not feeling that way, or for feeling this way or doing this or that. Like the grief part is the most complex, nauseating daily task that is just added to your life. Once it comes, if it's a massive, massive loss, it's
It stays.
there's not yeah, there's not words for it. Just like you said, you can't put words to it. No, you can't understand it until you experience it, and it ebbs and flows. Like you said, the wave, like that, I got hit by like a tsunami yesterday. Like
A
it
wave is
was,
an understatement.
yeah, like I just so it's so intense. It's so like it's just wild. And the timing of some of our losses has, it's just,
You
you know,
couldn't.
we're
You couldn't.
yeah, it's crazy. And so I feel like our journeys with major grief, which I'm the same way in turn, like obviously since 2020 I've lost some of like some pets that have been like my whole world. But there's different, this this grief was different. And you know it just completely knocks you off of wherever you are in life, whether you're in a you're in a good place or a bad place, wherever, it doesn't matter. It knocks you off, and it's just this seemingly never ending cycle. You can go months and months feeling this way and feeling this way about this thing, and then you can go a day feeling this way, and then the next day it's something else. And it's just like it's such a subjective experience. But I think there's an overall, like, kind of, the subjective or the objectiveness in it is just how it consumes you and takes over, even in the smallest ways. Like you said, like, how dare I get in the shower? Like that, just the way it's like a parasite. It just attaches to you and just takes over everything. And it's definitely been a massive journey with lots and lots and lots of life learning, and but also lots of finding connections and mending past relationships and realizing what truly matters, in life. That's been a huge thing for me. Is just things being put into perspective and people being put into perspective. And yeah, it's wild. It's wild. It's devastating. It's some days it feels impossible, but the thing that keeps me going is like, and it's not in a what's the word? Not in a pressurized way when I say like what would they want. When I say that, it's like during the times when like I'm really, really struggling and like it's 4 a.m. and I'm like crawling out of my skin. And even though that person isn't here anymore, like they bring me back down to earth. And like, you know, sometimes that's the only way, because those times, like that's the person you want to talk to the most, and they're not there anymore. And that's the hardest part, is like, well, not the hardest part, but one of the hardest things is like, I want to talk about how I'm feeling right now, but this person is why I'm feeling this way, and they're not here, so I can't talk to them. It's
The complexity of it, it's like
yeah.
actually mind blowing. And I think I've said this so many times to so many people about, you were saying about how you start to cry about it and then it's like unraveling so much.
Hmm.
I always say that grief it's this void that
Hmm.
is so, you're so desperate to fill it, and yet it's impossible to fill. And
Hmm.
I I'm actually scared of crying with
Hmm.
relation to grief because it never feels enough.
Yeah.
I could scream and cry in like a little kid,
Hmm.
really can't catch my breath kind of, and it's the whole no tears will be enough.
Hmm.
It's ultimately the only thing that can do anything about this
Hmm.
to come back.
Hmm.
It's as simple as that, and that's not going to happen.
Right.
And I think that's the most. I was literally speaking to my therapist week before, maybe last week, I don't know. And I was trying to get out the words that it had nearly been a year, but I
Hmm.
was like, I'm going to cry. She was like, maybe
Hmm.
you do. And luckily, she is an angel on earth and
Hmm.
one of the only people I feel safe enough with to just let go and let it all free. Eh,
Yeah.
But I was so scared because I'm like, I thank you, but I don't know when I'll
Hmm.
stop.
Yeah.
And I get so overwhelmed by the tears that
Yeah.
I it's so suffocating.
Hmm.
And it is. And I was thinking when you said about the music with the reel,
Hmm.
something I think about a lot is bloody videos and the music.
Hmm.
It's inescapable because
Yeah.
that was in one of the
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she made a reel to that, like at this point. And
Yeah.
music is huge. It is
Yeah.
definitely. And I think also, like you said, it's like these memories get plucked and it's like I didn't know who,
Hmm.
I really didn't
Yeah.
know.
It's like, where did that come from? And since then, like on my explore page, is that what it's called? I clicked on something and it was that same song again, which I'd never heard anywhere else ever except on that video. And I just immediately clicked off of it because I was like, nope, not doing that
No,
again.
not
Like, I'm not doing that again. But I was like, are you kidding me? Like 2 times in 2 days?
my dream catcher just.
Oh, that's weird.
Which one of you is it?
Yeah, who was that?
How cute.
That's so cute. My Patronus is a hedgehog.
Girl, what?
My Patronus. Harry Potter?
Nah. I've never watched it, never read it, never, no, no.
Really?
I mean, to be fair, in this day
No,
and age,
in this day and age,
it's not
absolutely.
something you would really approach.
Absolutely. You know, one of the funny things that I've found with having friends in the UK and that is that y'all have hedgehogs like outside, like in your gardens and stuff.
Well, yeah. Well,
Yeah, but hedgehogs are domesticated here. They're only pets. So for me, the thought of a hedgehog running around outside is hilarious to me.
oh, yeah. I suppose it's like a hamster or like.
Yeah, kind of is another conversation I have a lot with people that don't live here is the amount of wildlife that we have here, specifically in Florida.
But like,
Like our most like common one that we see here are bears.
it's just the bears that can.
Alligators.
Oh,
Wa-
I literally live next to a wildlife reserve, and the most exotic animals we see are pheasants and and grass snakes. Um, no.
I'm very afraid of bugs. And that's why I hate living here.
Well, I mean, I feel like I'd have more of an issue with the bears, but personally,
I actually might not be living here next year.
is there a follow-up statement? Or
Well, it's um I got into Trinity College, Dublin. Yeah, I got into my dream school.
that's amazing.
Thanks.
That's
I've
like
only told like two
incredible.
people
Well, now you've
about
told
it.
a lot more.
Yeah, because my plan was always to move to England, but obviously things got a little bit mixed up with that. And I
Just
kind
a
of like
little bit.
just a little bit. And I was feeling really lost. But then I literally got into like that school was built in the 1500s.
That's like quite a while ago.
Yeah, quite a while ago. Yeah. I'd be studying film and English. That's what my major
That's incredible.
is.
Yeah, as English 100%. I so see that.
Yeah.
I see it
So
all.
it's just like fully like I'm gonna be moving to Ireland. It's not like I'm going for a year and then coming back home. Like I'm
This is
fully moving to
exciting for
Ireland.
me.
I I'm excited. I was like, there's so many people that I'm gonna be so close to and have be able to spend time with, which is something that I struggle so massively with here because, you know, my best friend Kelly lives in New York, which is very far away from where I am.
God, I feel like I need to do something, meditation or something.
Yeah,
Do you know what? I actually cannot meditate for the life of me.
I
You
can't
know,
either.
like the people like guided meditation.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm being seduced.
Yeah, I don't like
Like,
it.
why are you telling me I don't what if I don't want to think about the sea? No.
Exactly. Makes me uncomfortable.
No, to be fair, I was trying to figure out how to make the video I'd recorded on my iPad look a bit more bougie. And I was like, do you know what? It's not going to happen realistically.
I don't have any of those jelly cats. Is that what they're called?
Something has to be done. That's terrible.
I know, I don't have one. I
When you were saying there's like things you could learn from me,
Mhm.
what were you referring to?
Like, I guess because a lot of your content centers around obviously autism and neurodivergency and that kind of thing. And I haven't like I'm just seeing it a lot more with adults being diagnosed late in life as having autism. And I think that it's very affirming for people to hear certain things. It's nothing that I've pursued, but it's definitely something that's been discussed like in over time, over the years. You know, you just have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different things, especially when it comes to mental health and being neurodivergent and just identity in general, things that I just haven't explored like deeply, or just stuff like that. And I don't mean that in a like you should talk about you need to talk about this, you should talk about this, but like I just feel like you have a lot of knowledge and for like just in general that I just simply do not, that I think um I could learn more about, like I do from from your posts and stuff like that, just in
Yeah.
general, I mean, you have a quite a vat of knowledge in your brain. And
I think that's part of the reason for this is that so much of my content I have to find the ideas. And
right.
a lot of the times it'll be like I'll have like a conversation with somebody and realize that it probably needs to be discussed further.
Mhm.
Like, for example, when I was out, and there was all this diet culture chat going on, and I was like, because it's for me, it's
Mhm.
such a strong boundary of mine that this isn't something we speak
Right.
about, and if we do, we're ranting about it. Like we are just
Yeah.
shit. Um,
Yeah.
so to hear it again, and it was almost like they think that because I'm so far along in my recovery, it's okay now. And
Right.
I was kind of thinking, well, okay, no, you
Yeah.
were supposed to just not talk about it around me. That wasn't.
Yeah.
This is like you're supposed to be working on your own beliefs and
Right.
acknowledging that this is actually inherently harmful, and that's where that kind of post came from. And I
Hmm.
think sometimes I'm at a loss because there's so much I can talk about, but I
Hmm.
have no prompts. I have no,
Right.
and I want to be like, what do you want to know? What do you want to hear? And I feel like when you're
Yeah.
discussing things and things get brought up and it's like, wait, I want to know more about that. That's when
Yes.
for that conversation to be recorded, because it's so often I said this in the introductory thing, it's like I'll have a conversation and I wish it had been recorded because there is so much learning and
Yeah.
such a lovely discussion. And it honestly, some of the conversations feel like a podcast episode. And
Mhm.
this literally should have been recorded because that was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
me and Maz used to do that literally every morning. Like it would be like we just talked for like 4 hours about something extremely serious and deep.
yeah,
Why didn't we record that?
yeah.
Like we were so adamant about it all the time. Like we'd be like, why didn't we record that? Like that would have been a great podcast.
Or it's
Like,
even like, oh, I'll speak about that in my next video, and then it's like
yeah,
it's all kind of gone by then. Like it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
diluted and you've
exactly.
forgotten what you were,
Yeah,
and it doesn't feel as like authentic when
exactly.
you're repeating stuff. And I think that's why this is,
Yeah.
just chill, because I think like
Hmm.
the most authentic chats like this, to me it feels like we are just on FaceTime having a chat. Like
Hmm.
it's nice,
Yeah.
and this is why I want it to be so sort of like unmasked, because I feel like if it was like it was scripted and structured, that's when there's like pressure and you feel like you have to censor yourself, and
Right.
thoughts just aren't there in the same way, because it's like
Yeah.
your brain knows that there's only like you're being watched and
Yeah.
deceived. And
Yeah. Right.
in terms of being on here, I do want it to just feel chill. And that's the other thing. It's like when I say I'm an open book,
Yeah.
like
Same.
I've tried to be mysterious. I've tried so hard,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen. Someone asks me one question, that's it. You'll know my life story.
I feel that. Yeah.
Every hairdresser ever. I can't do
Yeah.
small talk. I hate small
Yeah.
talk. And it's
Me
like they'll
too.
ask me like, so what you doing education wise? So then I have to like go into the whole, well, actually I should be at uni, but because of this, I didn't do that. And then and blah, 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 and it's like next thing I know, I'm like, deepest,
Yep.
darkest traumas. So I'm like, which one do you want me to
Yeah,
start with? We have a variety. So
exactly. Exactly. Like choose straws. Which one do you want? Like I'm the same way. Like, because it's like, because I mean, it is true. There's just when it comes to mental health or, just the things that people struggle with, like this kind of structured societal like trajectory is really difficult to deal with. That's something that I've always struggled with is
I
not,
can't handle it.
yeah, like not following that path,
Mm.
that ideal path that is kind of set out for you of what you're supposed to do once you're this age, because that was completely rendered in terms of my ability to complete certain things because of how bad I was struggling. And so therefore, if someone asks me a question about like school or jobs or whatever, I have like 25 bullet points that I have to say before I get to the like even slightly being able to start answering.
Yeah.
But that's frustrating because we shouldn't have to like over explain ourselves. You know what I mean? Like
And I
if
also think that people don't realize how loaded certain questions are. And
yeah,
it's a normal small talk kind of thing.
yeah,
But actually,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
loaded question. Like
yeah,
when you think
yeah,
about it in terms of education, there's so much that goes into that experience
yeah,
is really kind of like on par with, do you plan on having kids? Like,
yeah, literally.
sorry,
Yeah. And
is
and
that your business?
there's like I think there needs to be more awareness around stuff like that because something like school is can be a massive like trigger topic for me in terms of feeling less than or you know what I mean? Like or
Yeah.
feeling like I'm like if I'm explaining how high school was or whatever, I feel like I'm just moping or like boring the person I'm talking to because it's just as bleak. And I'm like, I'm just complaining, and even though I know like my journey and my um experiences were very valid and and what happened and what it meant to me. But like if I go and like spew it out to somebody, I'm like, oh my God, like I just felt like I just seem like I'm just like like being like the biggest bummer ever. You know what I mean? So
I also think
it's
that
just
sometimes that's necessary for people
yeah.
to realize what they've just asked.
Yeah. It's like,
And it's
oh,
like,
okay.
okay. And it's like, well, or it's like, okay, you asked me. And
Yeah,
if you had taken the time to consider what you were asking, I feel
exactly.
so uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
And I also think as well, um, people, I think if especially as like neurotypical people, people who haven't really struggled with their mental health in school, it's just like a normal part of life. It's something that was
Mhm.
just I mean it's not something I can even explain in that way because it's so far from my experience that I just can't
Yeah.
imagine a normal academic experience.
Yeah.
I don't, what is that? I think
Hmm.
also like the thing that became so apparent at the time is how everybody's universe is centered around their education because I
Hmm.
had so much going on in my personal life, in my own brain, and all people were going on about is exams in lessons in this teacher this and this teacher that, and I
Hmm.
like my home life is just like hello, it's
Yeah.
that deep.
Like there's so much more going on. Like it's ugh. And I went to a terrible high school. Like if I'm being honest, like my high school experience, like if I had gone to a better school, I obviously still would have struggled massively, but the school was like no help whatsoever and really terrible teachers. Like I remember this one time, little off to the side real quick, but because it just popped into my head. I was in history class and like it was I was a senior at the time.
What does that
So
mean?
like my so that was my last year of high school before I were to go up to college or what you guys call uni.
So
I was
7,
like 17, 18.
yeah.
But so I was in my last year of high school and my history teacher was going, he was the worst. Oh, boy, I have so many stories about that man. He ended up getting arrested. So he was going around the room asking people what they wanted to do in college and like what they wanted to be. And he's going around the room and people are saying certain things and blah blah blah. And like he gets to me and I say, I don't know. And he went on to be like, do you understand how ridiculous that is? What are you doing being 18 years old, not knowing what you're gonna do? He's like, that is like he was going off on me. But I just remember like, like I don't know what you want me to say. Like I was just being honest, and then
Yeah.
he's trying to make me feel so terrible about it. Like he was so like I can't even remember all the stuff he was saying, but I was like one of the last people to say anything. And he just went off on this tangent about how at my age, like for me to say I don't know is just unacceptable. It's ridiculous. Like in my generation, blah 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 blah.
We're not
And I
in your
was
generation, sunshine.
yeah,
Um, no, but I do. It's so like 18, and it's like I'm only 20 now, but it's
yeah.
like, and I still feel so young.
Hmm.
Like to think of the kind of choices you're being asked to make at
Hmm.
that age, and it's like you don't even know who you are.
Yeah. And I was like the older person in that class. Like there was mostly like sophomores, I think, in that class. So like second year, only a couple seniors in that class. And both of us were kind of like not really sure.
Mm.
But like these sophomores had these answers he wanted. I don't know if they just came up with something on the fly
I feel
because,
like
it's
the younger you are, more idealistic you are.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
as you get older,
Yes.
you start to realize, wait, this is an actual thing. Like this is
Yeah,
actually a direction I
exactly.
want to go in. That's when it kind of hits you and you take it
Yeah.
seriously. But I
Hmm.
also think that it's like the thing that makes me so angry. Like I can't say that my school was terrible. It was questionable, but
Questionable.
like support wise, I think the only thing I can say is that they weren't educated enough
Hmm.
in terms of supporting people, and there were a few members of staff that you could not write it, but that is not to be recorded. Even like primary school, like from being really little, reading about my school reports, it's like literally the criteria of ADHD
Hmm.
and ASD. And
Hmm.
I spent my entire school life being criticized. And the whole thing was wasted potential. It was just like you're constantly like, you're wasting your potential. Like you have so much potential. You're so intelligent, you're wasting it, you're wasting it. You're just lazy, you're not trying hard enough, and all of this. And obviously, like I didn't have a diagnosis, so I didn't know why. I just thought, well, this must be my fault. And it's like
Right.
I think he was constantly getting punished. Like
Hmm.
I was like in detentions all of the time, whether that was
Hmm.
because I'd missed deadlines, um,
Hmm.
literally just like not done the work, or and that was partly because I was struggling so much, like with my mental
Yeah.
health, but also because ADHD. No,
Yeah.
deadlines are never going to be met. Um,
Yeah.
but then also like things like um shouting out, being labeled as like the class clown and all of this sort of
Hmm.
stuff. They were like punishing me in the same way over and over again, putting me in detentions. And one day I said to my German teacher, I was like, has it never occurred to you that I don't want to be here? I don't want to spend my lunch times in
Hmm.
your classroom.
Hmm.
And like I did like the time it was like I had no one, but still I would have rather been anywhere else. Like I didn't want to
Right.
be, especially as someone so sensitive and like the fear of rejection and things like that. To be told off was like nauseating to me. Like I found it terrifying.
Yeah.
And it was like a repeated thing. And then when I got my diagnosis, I was thinking, did it never occur to them that maybe something deeper going on?
Hmm.
Me being in detention in every single period of free time that I had was probably not on my agenda. Like,
Exactly. Like, do you think I want to be here? When I was talking to my friend Kelly about this the other day, and just because we went to the same high school, we were talking about how terrible it was, and just how many teachers, it's like, why are you a teacher if you don't truly care about, like, some teachers like almost scare you into learning or make things impossibly difficult on purpose. And it's like they're trying to make it so incredibly hard that it's really easy to fail or not do well in the class
yeah.
when, there'd be like one teacher a year that would actually want the student to do well, would
Hmm.
make sure that the way they taught was to help the student succeed,
Hmm.
and made sure that they were available and accessible and made you feel like you could approach them if you needed help or had a question.
Hmm.
But then 98% of all the other teachers are just on this like power trip. It's like they just like being
In
in this like
charge.
authority. Yeah, they like having this authority against young people. And
Yeah.
that seems to be the only reason that they're a teacher, because they certainly have no compassion
No.
for the kids, whether you're a straight A student or somebody that's obviously, they should be taught to look for
Mm.
like signs, like warning signs.
Exactly it. And I think there's like a couple of teachers who, and I think a lot of it was almost like my struggles, it was so profound and repetitive that they were basically forced to do something because,
Right.
because at the end of the day, whether it was because they were going to look bad or because
Hmm.
they were genuinely really concerned, they were forced to do something.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
was a case of, if I even want to think about you getting this grade, we need to
Hmm.
get you to a place mentally where you can see a future. So,
Yeah.
and there was that, but I always think about the actual irony of the fact we are in school by law. Like, we have no choice but to be there, whether we like it or not, and yet they are paid to be there. If we retaliate to the way they are treating us, which is frankly
Hmm.
disgusting, considering they are paid to be there, we're the problem.
Literally.
Like,
You're,
hello? Like,
yeah.
it literally makes zero sense. And I think so much, like, my school was a Catholic school, so it was like incredibly strict, like the uniform and everything. It was like madness. And I was like, I swear people just like to be in control. I think your senior is our sixth form.
Yeah.
So that's like, yeah. So it was when I got there, that was when I kind of realized you kind of stop seeing teachers as teachers and you start to see them as human beings.
Right.
And I was like, it kind of like, I don't know. I've always struggled if I didn't get on with the teacher, I didn't perform well. It was a
Yeah.
simple that. Like, it was,
Yeah.
and there was so many people who could kind of bypass that. Even if they didn't like
Hmm.
the teacher, they'd still do really well because they were doing the work and blah blah blah. And
Hmm.
it's like, I don't know whether
Yeah.
it's like an emotional thing, but it's like there's got to be part of me that wants that
Hmm.
teacher's validation.
Right.
Because otherwise, like, what
Yeah.
I want to try, but like, I think that was the other thing. I was made to feel so helpless and like
Hmm.
inferior that it was like I would literally walk into the classroom. I'd not even said anything, and like they had like a system where they, if you were in trouble, they'd write your name on the whiteboard, and then you'd get some sort of like discipline. I'd literally
Right.
not even walked into the classroom, and my name would be on the board, and I was just like, what is the point of me even trying? Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why would I? And then it's how can they think that's some sort of like how is that helpful for anybody?
Exactly. How is that helpful? How
Like,
is that?
from the off,
Yeah,
there's no point in me even trying because no one
exactly.
believes in me.
Yeah,
So, oh,
exactly. It's hard. It's no matter what the school structure is. I mean, it's hard, but I mean, throughout high school, I I had dropped out at one point because of just how bad my mental health was, and I tried to do homeschooling and like more than once, and that didn't work. Because I couldn't find the self-discipline to do it. That's just not anything that I could do. Um, in terms of like a full course load, like for every single class, like maybe a class or two, because I've done that in college, but or uni, whatever we want to call it here. I almost got my GED, which is like the equivalent of a high school diploma. You take a test that's like all high school curriculum. I think that would be like A levels.
Yeah, we at 16 you do GCSEs
Right.
and then you do A levels, but that's kind of where it gets confusing.
Yeah.
I feel like GCSEs is the one that like everybody ideally would get,
Yeah.
and then A levels are more optional.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, a college, no, a high school diploma isn't like you can't finish high school without it. So
Mhm.
like you have to,
Yeah, that's like GCSE.
yeah. So it was just like a nightmare because like I said, I dropped out. I tried to do homeschooling, I think more than once. There was multiple like different things, and eventually like I had to like my senior year, like my final year was a nightmare. Like that, I was so unwell and I was just like barely scraping by. Like I was exhausted, like I mean, it's almost like they set you up to fail sometimes. Like because not everybody learns the same. Not everybody copes the same. Not everybody, do you know what I mean? Like I don't know how it
Yeah,
is over there, but like standardized testing and stuff like that, it's like
yeah.
that should not be how we figure out, you know, how smart you are or if you qualify for this. Because some people simply don't test well, but they're
Like
incredibly
it's literally a memory
intelligent.
test.
Exactly. And, I could talk about this thing for ages, but sit me down and like make me like do an assignment about it, I
Mhm.
freeze up, you know? It's certainly not made to help people succeed in general, but if you have like added stressors like, mental health issues or home issue, whatever the situation may be, it's just wrong.
Well, that's the thing. That's the whole sort of issue with being
Yeah.
having learning disabilities
Hmm.
is that none of it is catered to
Yeah,
you. And
exactly.
you ask, and it's like you're asking the world of them. And
Hmm.
I cannot do exams. It is a memory test, and my memory is not good. I really
Yeah.
can't. And I was predicted for A levels. I was at the beginning of the year. I was literally predicted A stars, A,
Mhm.
A. And then as soon as the assessing started in terms of timed essays or like mock exams and things like that, that's when my grades started going down. I was like, it's because
Mhm.
you're testing my memory. Like this isn't,
Yeah.
I have the knowledge to get these grades, but you're testing my memory. And even with like accommodations in terms of like we get extra time or like rest breaks and things like that, I was like, nonetheless, this is still a memory test, and I'm
Yeah.
still in a position where I'm under pressure, and it does make a difference. But it's like people they see it as a nicety, like exam
Mhm.
arrangements. And I've literally just done a college exam, and they said to me, I said, "Oh, well, like, what have you sorted out my access arrangements? Like, what's happening?" And they're like, "Well, they've kind of mentioned it too late, so you're just going to have to do it in the room with everybody else." And I was like, if I was a wheelchair user and that was a room with no wheelchair access, you'd sort it out.
Mhm.
You'd sort
Yeah.
it out. Like I'm telling
Yeah.
you, I cannot sit in a room full of people. I can't sit with those lights. I have to
Hmm.
type, and I either
Hmm.
have to have rest breaks or extra time.
Hmm.
And they were like, "Well, there's just nothing we can do now." And I was just like, "This isn't some kind of like privilege. This is a case of I can either do the exam or not."
Yeah, exactly.
I had to do the exam in those conditions, and I've
Hmm.
not got my result yet. I'll get it August.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I could have done so much better if they
Yeah.
literally just had those accommodations for me.
Yeah.
So,
You'd think that that would be their priority is to get the people taking these tests, these exams succeed, but instead, like I said, it's like 98% of these people, it's like, sorry,
mm,
like that's just the way it is, and it's just like maddening.
obsessed with the grade average thing. That
Uh-huh.
that's really where I don't get it. Because
Yeah.
in terms of like looking after your students, in terms of their mental health, things like that, I mean, they're not technically signed up to care, but
Yeah.
it's like a known fact that teachers obsess over grade averages.
Mm-hmm.
For them to not help you to get those grades is like literally what's your excuse? How have we been
Yeah.
for 40 minutes?
I know. I feel like that's fake.
It's time. What even is time?
Exactly. Like,
I don't know because I'm just like grateful. Like I'm just like,
oh,
oh, it's so incredible that we've finally been able to speak properly.
it
And
really is.
there's so much that is unsaid, and we have
Yeah.
so much more.
Yeah, literally like
Like
just
obviously on a more personal level,
mhm.
but I do think I'm immensely grateful for you and for this conversation.
I'm immensely grateful, honestly. Like I'm just like like I said earlier, like just so proud of you for taking a step to do something like this because it's not an easy thing to do. It's quite daunting, but the way you've laid it out kind of just I just want this to be like a conversation. I want this to be just open and safe for everyone, and I think that that's a brilliant thing. And I think that it's going to be really, really fun and that there's a lot of people that, you can have conversations with about these things. And it just, so the word I've been looking for this entire time is inclusive. That's the word I've been looking for the entire time. It's just your content, everything. It's so inclusive. It's so affirming. And I'm really grateful for it. I'm honored that you wanted me to talk here, if like I'm truly super honored by it and I can't wait to see, you know, what comes from it. I'm just really excited about it. Like genuinely, I'm really excited about it because but yeah, this has been lovely. And
I was
again,
just gonna say that. I was just gonna say it's so lovely. So
and I'm grateful.
and then a real goodbye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Toodles.
Bye guys. Thanks for listening. Let me stop recording.